I'm on the Transplant Coffee Talk. I am your host, Steve Belcher. What a wonderful morning. We have a great show for you today. But before we get to our show, I'd like to again ask for prayers for my partner, Tamika Moore, as she is on bed rest until she has her baby. So again, please keep her in your thoughts and prayers. And I'd like to thank everyone who kept me in their thoughts and prayers for my ex-wife's funeral yesterday, Veronica Belcher. Today we have a great show for you. I mean, this is really a good show. Live from Spanish Harlem. I call her the queen of Spanish Harlem. She's a kidney warrior, licensed social worker, staunch advocate. I mean, words can't describe this person, but she's a very beautiful woman that I had an opportunity to meet on Facebook. And again, live from Spanish Harlem, we have Sandi Salas. How you doing, Sandi?
Hey, how you all doing?
What's going on?
Just chilling with you, trying to get some coffee talk with the other warriors and friends out there.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. This day finally came. I remember when we first met on Facebook, and I asked you to be on the show, and you know what? That seems so long ago, but really it wasn't. And this day is finally here, and I know you have a lot to share. As I've seen, a lot of your posts over the past weeks. So let's just start from the beginning. When did you find out, or can you just take us back to the day you found out you had kidney disease and that dialysis was going to now be a part of your life?
Yes, that was 2012. I had just transferred from the Bronx Child Protection Office to Manhattan office, and in the morning, I woke in the middle of the night. I woke up and I went to the bathroom. And I turned on the light and I noticed, and the toilet bowl was all blood. And I panicked. I was like, what is going on here? What is all this blood? I contacted my primary and he said I needed to see a kidney specialist immediately. I saw a kidney specialist and she sent me to have a sonogram of my kidneys, and the diagnosis was that I had a cyst on my kidneys. She says, let's see what happens in 3 months. 3 months later, I went back to have a second sonogram because how the insurance works, you cannot do anything prior to 3 months. And when I went back for my 3-month follow-up, there was no longer a cyst. But my creatinine levels were skyrocketing all of a sudden. I was diagnosed with hypertension and diabetes. My diabetes was under control. It was, under 7.0. I was taking metformin for it at that time for my diabetes. And I was on a hypertension medication for people with kidney problems called quinapril. And I was faithful. Every 3 months, I would go to my medical appointments. I would do my blood work every 3 months. I would see my primary every 3 months and follow up whatever, follow up with all their requests. What happened was that during taking the metformin, my primary was concerned that the metformin was harming me. But my diabetes doctor says no. All the studies show that metformin was great for those with diabetes and for kidney disease. My primary started seeing that I was dehydrated all the time, even though at work I was drinking bottles of water. But then my legs started swelling, my feet started swelling, and I started watching the swelling go from my ankles to my calves to my knees, And I was panicking as it was going higher, the swelling. And, you know, trying to work at work and maintain my job as a supervisor, walking became difficult because of the swellingness. Um, I had a kidney specialist that was supposed to be top notch in New York City. Um, but the creatinine levels was just skyrocketing, going up every 3 months. I was following all their prescriptions, doing everything, cooking, taking salt out of my diet, not eating certain things anymore. But unfortunately, I have to say that sometimes, and I don't think this might be popular for everybody to hear, that people of color do not get the best medical care possible based on maybe our insurance, based on our demographics. I'm not quite sure why, but it's been mine. I followed everything that doctors always ask me to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this, Sandy. Several things that I heard in your story that I hear in a lot of people's story, and I just want to know. So, what stage did you find out that you had kidney disease? Did they tell you, like, were you in 1, 2, 3, or they just didn't say anything about any stages?
They didn't say anything about any stages until 2014. I was retiring in February 2014 after 29 years, and they suggested that I have a weight loss surgery to try to save my kidneys. By the weight loss, my hypertension might come down, the diabetes might get better. So I opted to have the sleeve, the bariatric surgery. Unfortunately, I was one of the few that had complications where I was bleeding internally and my body shut down.
Wow.
My kidneys shut down. So when I was in ICU for 10 days, and I was told afterwards that I wasn't expected to live because how my kidneys shut down and they weren't coming back. My body totally shut down because of the bleeding, broken blood vessel in my stomach that caused a second surgery for me to go into surgery again to try to repair, you know, that bleeding vessel, broken bleeding vessel.
Right. Let me ask you: Do you ever blame that surgery for the fast track of the kidney disease?
Yes, because I went from what I was told 50% kidney function down to a little below 30% kidney function.
All right. Let me ask you, Sandy, right quick. Another thing that I heard in your story that I hear in a lot of people's story is the taking of metformin to control your diabetes. And I know they say that is a diabetes medication for type 2. How long were you taking metformin and how long did you have type 2 diabetes?
I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes in 2001. I was diagnosed with hypertension in 2006. So I started on metformin. It was probably 2003 because for the first year, I was maintaining my glucose levels, you know, below 130, you know, through diet.
Right.
But as the year went by, it became a little bit more difficult, and that's when they put me on a dosage of metformin.
And that was 2001, 2002,
2003, the end of 2002.
Okay. And then when did your kidney disease start?
2012, when I
Okay.
was first told, because nobody ever said anything to me. I was doing my blood works every 3 months. I was, following through every 3 months with my primary. I was, meticulous with that,
Right.
even though my job didn't like it.
Right. But were you looking at the numbers?
Yes, I was sticking myself,
No,
3 times a day.
I'm talking about the kidney numbers, like the BUN and creatinine. Were you
Nobody ever mentioned that to me till 2012.
that's the point that I'm getting to, where a lot of people, and this is for people who's watching as well. This is where I think the trap is. Well, I don't want to say trap, but you shouldn't. When you was diagnosed back in 2001, 2, or 3, when you start taking that metformin, apparently, I'm not sure how long you were taking it, but in 2012, when you was diagnosed, it's no way, if type 2 diabetes is preventable, it should have been no way you should have been having type 2 from 2002, 3, or whenever that was discovered all the way to 2012. That's almost 9 years of dealing with diabetes. And what they don't tell you is diabetes is, your sugar is high, so it's slowly killing the kidneys over the years. It's slowly damaging, and no one knows it. They think they're keeping the blood sugar good, the glucose, because of the ups and downs. But if it's more up and down and it's not at a balanced control, and if your A1C, is not below where it should be, and a person is not exercising but continue to eating, I think that's where the trap is with the diabetes and how it gets us. For instance, I was at a health fair and I was talking to a young lady who had type 2 diabetes for 7 years, taking metformin. And I told her there's no way she should be having type 2 diabetes for 7 years. And she was a small person too, and taking metformin for those many years, because if type 2 is preventable, you should be exercising, watching what you're bringing in, and that should be no more. But that's what I don't get. That's why 9 out of 10 African Americans have stage 3 kidney disease and don't even know it. Majority of those people probably have type 2 diabetes and hypertension, where are the two catalysts for kidney disease.
Exactly, yes. And I, being educated, there was questions I would ask, but sometimes you don't know all the right questions to ask your medical providers. So you kind of trust in them to share information and share things to do. No one sent me to a nutritionist for a long time.
Wow. So how do you think that we can change that narrative so more people could be aware or attuned to what's going on?
Education about our diseases and illness. We have to be a big participant in it. We have to learn how to speak up, ask questions, and just don't take everything that the doctors say verbatim. We have to be participants. We have to ask these questions. And sometimes we don't know the right questions to ask. The internet helped me ask questions, because as I was getting ill, I would look up certain things on the internet. And when I went to see my kidney specialist, I had those questions. And she would look at me in amazement sometimes, like, wow, I didn't expect these questions to be asked. Because I was concerned, because I, in my field of child protection, I provided services to children and parents that were ill. And many of my parents were on dialysis. So I provided them with homemaking and home attendance services to keep the family intact. And dialysis was always there in the forefront of me. And I was always fearful, of it, because I had friends also on dialysis that did not live very long.
Wow.
So we
Wow.
need to be educated. Fortunately, I have a master's degree. I'm fluent in English. There are many, people out there that have limited education or limited English speaking, and they do not know how to advocate for themselves. We trust the doctors totally. And the doctors do every 15 minutes is a new patient. So you in and out, in and out. So when you're thinking of the question to ask, your time is already up.
You're absolutely right, Sandy. Speaking from the health care point of view, you're absolutely right. And that was the reason why I started Urban Kidney Alliance, because I seen and work with people that you're talking about who not educated or don't know what's going on, or maybe have an addiction, multiple addictions, and still trying to deal with kidney disease and whatever they're going through, or maybe relying on disability or Social Security or just fixed income, where they may have to make a choice between getting medication or buying food or paying a light bill or getting the medication. So you're absolutely right. And again, I would just want to piggyback on what you said about doctors coming in. They're in and out. Person could be asleep. The doctor could say hello and the person don't answer. He'll keep it moving and he would still get paid at the same time, because it said he's seen the patient. It doesn't mean that the patient was awake or asleep. He was there present to see the person.
And put his initials on the paper and walked away.
Absolutely. So let me just ask you this. Do you receive your treatment in New York City or your home dialysis?
No, I do it in center.
Okay.
Monday, Wednesday, Fridays.
What shift?
Second shift, 10 to 2.
Does that work out for you?
Yeah, I get there at 8:30 in the morning. I'd rather be there a little bit early because sometimes they will take me in early, when there's a chair available.
Chairs available, right.
Yeah. And a lot of us do that because we've seen so much changes at the shifts. And unfortunately, those changes are people have passed away. There has been this year, quite a few people have passed away at the center. And when we ask for them, they're very reluctant to tell us anything.
Yeah. And I think that has to do with HIPAA. By you being a licensed social worker, there's certain things you can't say pertaining to another patient and not. And so what normally happens, from my point of view, what I've seen is when that happens, if a person in the facility does pass away, it tends to be the facility to put up arrangements. Like if it's going to be a funeral, they'll put it up so everyone can see it. But lately, you're right. A lot of people have been hush hush. Even when I went out on my medical leave and patients were asking staff, what happened to me. Of course, they're not going to tell them the whole story, but at least say, oh, well, he's out on medical leave. Patients told me, I was wondering where you was at. I asked people when they act like I was speaking foreign language or something.
Yeah.
And it's not I've been doing dialysis for 33 years, and there's been a big change in the facilities. The staff is not able to sit down and really communicate with patients, to do patient education. It's almost like it's a factory type setup. Like, let's try to get people in, get them dialyzed, and get the next person in. Have you noticed that at your facility, Sandy?
For instance, when they do that once a year for an emergency, how to take yourself off the machine. Now, I'm very alert. very active, educated, and I just wonder what they say, turn this one off, clip here, clip there, turn this off, turn the second one off, put the screws on at the end, and then remove yourself from the machine. I know I'm able to do that, but I know at least 90% of the in-center patients that are a lot older than me, I'm 66, a lot of them they're in their 70s and 80s, they would never be able to follow those directions. And those directions are given in like 5 minutes. Here, sign the paper. You got, the education on an emergency, how to remove yourself from the machine.
Absolutely. Braille want to know, are any chances of home dialysis for you?
I've been thinking about it. I'm a little fearful of it, to be honest. I've talked to other people, and based on the show here, other people talking about the home dialysis and the two types. There is my doctor has told to many people, because I had bariatric surgery and that I probably will have scar tissue in my stomach, she doesn't think I would be a candidate for perinatal.
Peritoneal.
Yeah, right. But she should still send me to a doctor and have the doctor determine if I'm a candidate or not.
Well, you don't have to be peritoneal. You could do home hemo, whatever access you have now, you can use that.
Yes, but I'm a little fearful of sticking myself.
Right. I understand. That's why with some people, they have companions who would do that, and they'll train both of them. But, I mean, let me bring her back on. I mean, I don't think, can you see your screen?
Yes.
So this lady right here, Braille, I forgot where she's out of, but she's a very positive woman that does home dialysis. She has the access in her leg, and she cannulates herself and do all her. And she's a very, very inspirational, positive person. Let me see. She put this up. I was too, but you get over the fear. I mean, I really suggest that you connect with this lady, Braille. Very, very positive. She does Facebook Live videos, inspirational. And just me hearing your story and you talking about, she's out of Ohio. And I'm gonna have a show with her on as well. It's going to be a conversation with Braille. But just hearing what you just said about the emergency takeoff and the clamp, this, that, you would be a perfect candidate for home hemodialysis. And that's just my professional assessment of just hearing you, seeing you, and just, a glimpse of your personality. I think you would be a great candidate for that. And I think it's something to look at. I'm sure the needle part is a little fearful, but I mean, just think, once you get past that, you pretty much control your own destiny from there when it comes to treatment. You don't have to get on the bus or however you get to the dialysis treatment, 3 days a week for the mid shift. You could do it at night when you sleep. Your life will pretty much change on far as depending on the facility, to do your treatment. Granted, you have to do lab work and stuff like that. You have to go out for your appointment. But for the home hemo, you got Don P. Mormon, you have Brill, and I'm sure there's other people that I'm not naming that's out there. It's a gentleman, I don't want to mention his name, but I just reconnected with that worked for one of the dialysis companies down here with me a long time ago, and reconnected through another venue. And I didn't know this gentleman, he's on dialysis and he does it at home as well. It's just the complete freedom and freedom and, that you have doing it. And so I'm still talking because I'm trying to convince you, even, She said, absolutely, because you can when I do my assessments and walk around and talk to different patients, and I'm like, and they talk to me about their treatment, I'm asking, why are you not doing this at home? And they say a lot of them say the same thing that you do, is the fear for the needles. But I mean, why should you fear yourself doing it and not fear the person that you don't know that's cannulating? I mean, you just know them from going to the clinic and you trust in them when you first got there to insert that needle in. That's not to say you couldn't do the same thing and trust your own self. You see what I'm saying?
I didn't trust a lot of people. I was a problem when I first got my fistula.
Absolutely. So I'm sure you'll trust yourself, and it's not easy to learn to cannulate. Basically, once you feel, well, depending on, you know, if it's in, you know, you're using your non-dominant, you know, left hand or right handed. Some people are ambidextrous, but if you could, that would be I think that would be a real game changer for you, Sandi. I mean, and then instead of, I'm not sure how long you do it at home, at the clinic, but instead of the 3 hours or 3.5 hours, or even they can cut those hours if something goes on in the clinic at home, you can run your treatment. Let's just say if you're up late, maybe 4 or 5 hours, you laying down watching TV, your treatment running, your clearances are going to be a whole lot better than in center because of the treatment time. You know, yeah, some people, and then Braille says no infections as well. It's just a win-win situation, because in the clinic you got many people who may come by your machine, check your blood pressure. If the machine goes off, it's not going to be the same person resetting the machine. You know, that reduces infection. Plus, going in, it's flu season, people coughing, people not wearing masks, sneezing, touching door handles. I mean, it's just so much that you got to think about, that I'm even thinking about it because I'm back to work. I mean, when I say thinking about it, meaning thinking about just what I said about the whole infection control, touching doorknobs, people coughing, sneezing. And even when you're in that environment, there's germs. Just the bee germs is just there in the air. So,
well, I'm making what happens with my doctor. She informed me that to discuss certain things, I have to make an appointment to come into the office. Because what I call their medical stuff drive-by medical. They give you 2 minutes, you asking them a question, and they're walking to the next patient. And I tell her, I'm not here for everybody to hear my story. I want to talk to you one-on-one. So, you know, they think I'm a little radical at times, but that's okay, because it's my life.
Like
it's my life, I told them, yeah.
Absolutely. So Andre wants to know, how long is your time basically? When do you do it?
3.5 hours.
Okay. Okay. Do you think that's enough time?
Well, my clearance has been good, you know, at the center. Okay. You know, every blood work I've gotten, they write on the paper that it's excellent, because my phosphorus has been low, my potassium is low. They would like to see my protein a little higher, and I'm telling them, you know, I'm eating, and I'm eating too much sometimes, and I don't understand why the protein is not as high as they would like it, but they said I'm at, you know, a good level with the protein.
Right, right.
And my A1C is under 7.
Great, great. Normally with the protein, they like to see people eat protein like fish, chicken, meat, and they even go to the point, and this is what gets me. I don't know if they do this in your unit, but now they give patients liquid protein at the center.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen some people get that, yes.
And you know, what they don't tell a lot of people, and this is just one of the secrets of the industry, and you know, the truth is the truth. And a lot of times when they give that stuff, the protein, those protein bars, yes, they want to see the levels up, but you know, companies now, based on certain numbers, get reimbursed based on the quality of the overall unit. So that means infection reduction, good, like the bones, phosphorus, calcium, you know, the whole potassium levels. All these are indicators that if they are out of whack, it almost makes a unit looks like they're not doing what they're supposed to do. You know, KT over V's. That's why, I mean, granted that infections, I'm sorry, that catheters can cause infections, right? But some people just can't, you know, do without a catheter because they may not have the veins in their arms to maintain an access. So they won't know this or find this out until after they get 3, 4, and 5 accesses, you know, because I've seen patients have 2 in one arm, 2 on the other.
Yes.
Leg, and it's like, how much more, you know, you got to take this person through to know if it didn't work in both of the arms. What, you know what I'm saying? So
I've seen it at the center.
I say all that to say, with the KT over V or the clearances that determines if you're getting a good treatment, some people can achieve those numbers. So they try to do everything they can to get those numbers achieved. But when you have those numbers are low, it makes it look bad when it comes to benchmarks and quality care, and making sure that patients are getting a quality treatment as they should be.
Yeah.
So
I've seen some patients. You know, we talked on the coffee time here about advocacy, and every Thursday, Friday after our discussions, and on Mondays after the Sundays, I kind of hold court in the center with a lot of the patients there, and they've decided that they want to elect me to be an advocate for them.
right,
I
right.
told them what the problem is that, you know, I was a union rep at my job for over 20 years. And I've learned from that sometimes when you do advocacy, your people have to back you up, not just go and hide and put their, you know, their heads in the ground and hide and say, oh, no, I don't want to be involved. So if I'm going to be an advocate, you got to stand behind me with the advocacy, because I'm only as strong as the people behind me supporting me.
Absolutely.
So
You're
I
right.
discuss with them every Monday what we talk about here on Sundays, and Fridays, you know, what we talk about on the Thursday shows. And some of them are very interested, and some of the older patients kind of just resort, well, I have to do this to live and I'm okay with it. I just see, you know, the depression. I use humor to keep me out of depression. I use humor a lot at the in center with the other patients, with the staff, with my friends on Facebook, with my friends on Facebook, to keep me from going into those dog days, especially in the winter. In the summertime, we have a lot of sunlight. You know, everything is jovial and happy, and, you know, you're out there. In the wintertime, it gets very, very cold. It gets dark early, and you can fall into that depressive state, especially coming home from your treatment. Because if you have a rough treatment, You come home not feeling well, you weak, and I want to do things. But
Right.
sometimes I just can't do something. I just got to get my electric blanket, wrap up in that, turn the TV on, and just try to get myself, centered again to feel better.
Mm-hmm.
So a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people ask me, well, you don't look sick or you don't look this. Why work at it? I get up early. I shower. I do my hair every morning. I put on some powder, on my face. I dress
Mm-hmm.
up to go to dialysis. They have told me in dialysis, you shouldn't be wearing these clothes. I said, well, I got to feel good. I can't come in here not feeling good and be on this machine for 3.5 hours. Because after two
Yeah.
hours, my legs get crazy. It's like I want to get up and run and get off this chair. But you can't do
Restless
that. You
leg
can't
syndrome.
move.
Right. Right.
So I tell people I
So
work at, trying to look good, trying to be presentable. It's not easy all the time. I would like to go to dialysis in my pajamas sometimes, but I
right.
wouldn't do that.
Oh, I think people come to dialysis in pajamas.
Yes, I have too, but I
Yeah.
wouldn't do that for myself.
Wow.
Even though I
Wow.
take now, I use Accessoride, which is our transportation for those with disabilities
Mm-hmm.
here in
Mm-hmm.
New York. So I use what they call eHeal, which is a taxi service that picks me up in the morning and picks me up and after treatment. And it's only one person. You're not filled up the van or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
luckily, New York City has, that service, what they call eHeal, which is usually the yellow cab services or the green cab services to pick us up.
Right. Right. Um, so I know recently you've been dealing with some issues with dialysis. Well,
Yeah.
I don't want to say issues, but um, what is it recently you've been speaking up against that's been um, kind of like a deterrent in Spanish Harlem?
Well, at the dialysis center, when every time I have the fistula cleaned out, the doctor that does what is it called? The cleaning?
Right. You talk about a fistulogram?
Right. He
Okay.
tells me to have them stop using the same areas to do the sticking. And they
Okay.
get angry when I tell them that. They were like, well, he don't know. He's not here. He don't know how difficult it is trying to do a new stick, the pain that it causes you. And I tell them, but you cannot be using the same areas because they're afraid that it can cause problems later on. November will be 2 years I'm on dialysis. So I'm kind of a newbie compared to
Right.
the other warriors that are on 8, 10, 12 years.
Right. Right. Yes. And so let me just share this from a medical point of view as well. And Brill said, "Oh my gosh, yes, rotate." The surgeon is right. I used to say I'm one of the ones that used to say the same thing as a lot of people, just like those uh, techs and nurses that you just said that the surgeon's not here. He doesn't see this. He doesn't understand. However, it is crucial and very important, regardless how painful it may be, to rotate those sites. And it's not your fault because you don't know. The patients don't know unless they get the education. I blame the healthcare workers, okay? I blame them because they should know instead of going at the same spot, even those same people who may have stuck you and been there for the longest, the veterans at the clinics. I'm sure you got veterans there that have been there longer than 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah.
They know it's a convenience for them to just get the needle in, get your treatment going, instead of taking the time, doing assessment of your access, and say, okay, let's go here. Where did they go last time? Normally you can see the scab from the last cannulation. Then you're supposed to go 2 fingers width from the last one and then cannulate. It's going to feel just like when you first got cannulated. There's numbing cream out there. There's other ways to combat that, but they know well that they don't go in the same spot. We used to call that one-site-itis, sticking in the same area. And let me tell you what it can do when you go in the same area. It can weaken the skin in that area, and what can happen, it can cause aneurysms. And aneurysms are those bumps, or what they call them, quote, quote, lumps in your arm. What happens, that area weakens, and you got that high velocity of blood going through your arm, it's going to expand that area that's weak. And that's where the knots come from and the aneurysms. Some people get them cut, some people don't, but that's where that comes from. And so even if you stick in the same area, in a person, it could cause a person to bleed when they get home. You know, that spot can open back up again.
I'm a bleeder. When they take out the needles, I bleed a lot. On Friday, it was like I was just kind of worried because they couldn't stop the bleeding. So I was telling, the person removing them that he owed me a steak because I needed my blood back,
Yeah, you just got to be careful.
There's so much blood.
Yeah, and as Braille says, your access can blow if you go in the same spot because that area is getting weaker and weaker. And again, if that blood is coming through the velocity, it could pop through that scab, especially if that area is weak. So just be careful. Have them rotate the sites because the surgeon's, he's right. I mean, he can show you the x-ray of it and show you the access. And even though we can't see it below your arm, I mean, we can feel, people who has the experience of cannulating know what to look for and can make a accurate assessment. So even with new people, they go in the same spot so they don't have to deal with having a problem in the new spot. Because what happens, it slows them down from getting the next person on. I mean, I'm just giving you all the tricks of the trade, but just from behind the scene and from a healthcare point of view, and the many remarks I hear from people, working and just being in that environment, and just keep it to myself and overhearing stuff and, why wouldn't you do this or why wouldn't you do that? Oh, okay, I see why. And then we having conversations, and I'm speaking to people like you in other places that experience the same thing. It makes me connect the dots and see that, that it's the health, the people who working in it. You got some people who just start and not getting the proper training, and you got the people who's been doing this a long time that just go for a paycheck. You got people who do care what they do in their job, but they confined. They got their hands tied behind their back because there's so much that they can do. It's just so much, and that's why we do these shows. So hopefully people can see and think for themselves, be an advocate for themselves, and hopefully someone will see it to know that if they see this going on in their unit, it's not the norm, or it's not supposed to be the norm.
One of my famous sayings to them is, do they get a bonus to get people on quickly? Because they'd be rushing sometimes in the morning. And I tell them sometimes, listen, I want you to go into this other area. And what I hear sometimes, oh, it's going to cause a blood clot. on Friday was the first time that the machine showed that there was a blood clot. The machine kept on going off. And that's when I had asked the technician to try to go in a different area because, you know, my surgeon was saying that my fistula has just been a year and 6 months and I have large bumps now. So he was just concerned that, you know, he didn't want me later on to have some problems, you know, going down the line.
Right.
So even though when I speak to the nurse in charge, you know, he's Superman sometimes. He wants to Mr. Know-it-all, and that's okay. I'm not a nurse. I'm not, you know, going to try to pretend that I'm a nurse, but it's my arm, and this is my life support system.
Absolutely. Let me just share this with you. If your machine keeps going off, you need to ask them what's the problem. Because a lot of times when the machine goes off, it may be your arterial needle. It may be the TMP. And what happens when the machine stops, your blood stops, okay? And when that happens over a period of time, in the venous chamber is in the venous line on the machine, is part of the line that returns, that brings your blood back. So in that chamber, it's connected or it goes into an air detector. So that chamber, wait a minute, hold on. I hate to step away. This is the first time I ever did this, so I want to do it. Okay, so this right here is a venous line right here. Okay, so in this chamber right here, the blood comes down, and the chamber is supposed to be filled up to about right here. It's a line on it. You can't see it on here, but it's a line, indent line where the blood is supposed to fill right here. And when the blood comes down and it spills into here, it goes back in. Sometime when the blood is all the way up and it pulls around, that can and the machine keeps stopping. And if this is not at the level it's supposed to be, and I guarantee you a lot of them is not in the unit, if it's filled up, if the blood is up to here, this whole line can clot because it's not leaving any room for the blood to spill down. Where the line is. This chamber is supposed to be filled 3/4 full. You can read the directions that it comes in the box. You can ask them, hey, let me see the package information. It's supposed to be filled up to here, because if not, when you getting like medication like iron and other stuff, and this chamber is filled all the way to the top, meaning the blood is up here, it doesn't give any room again for the blood that comes through. When it's spilling down, it's kind of building, so it can pool around and cause a clot at the top, and then this line can become clotted because it's a filter at the bottom of this chamber. And, you know, blood tends to clean the stuff in clots. So that's why when people have stents and stuff like that, they give them blood thinners so the blood won't tend to hang on to the stent or whatever. But yeah, this is the venous chamber. And I brought this in because a lot of times when a person's machine keeps going off and they just keep hitting the button and don't find out what's the actual cause of that alarm, this chamber can clot. And then next thing you know, they'll say to you, oh, your blood clotted. And then they stripping down the machine. All that blood is wasted. Like you got a lot to give away.
Exactly.
Another line is set up in your treatment. And by that time, you probably saying, oh, something went on with the machine. And, and they had to set up. But not knowing that you just lost possibly a half a pint of blood. No one's checking your HB levels or your hematocrit hemoglobin to see if you had any type of blood loss or drop in blood count. So I mean, this is serious, and this is what's going on in clinics. You
And
know,
that's why we got to be educated, because I learned that from one of the technicians that has 12 years, a Hispanic technician that I've developed a good relationship with, and he will turn the machine so I could watch the numbers. Because he explained to me, about the 450, about, a number of things to watch. He says a
exactly.
lot of them do not, care. I've had two incidences, which you explained, where they had to cannulate me, put needles back in, stop the machine, do it all over, because someone, when they were sticking me, it was a bad stick. I was infiltrated. My arm, I mean, in the beginning, people used to, and it was summertime, and people would see my arm, people would come over to me and think that I was a victim of domestic violence because I was so black and blue.
Okay.
And I would explain to them, no, I'm on dialysis, thank you, but I'm okay. And it would just be, so eye-opening that I would be sitting on the bus and people would be staring at me because my whole arm where the fistula is was purple.
Wow. Wow. You got a little bright light behind you.
Oh, bright light? Okay.
There you go. There you go.
That's my plant light.
Wow. Wow.
So, I mean, this one guy, he has educated me a lot about, the dialysis machine and when, it goes off and what to look for. And he kind of puts other technicians in their place when something's going on and he's at the other end of the room and he yell at them, listen, get over there right away. Because a lot of them are on their cell phones during, the sessions. Once a session has began, they kind of think it is time to relax.
Yeah, absolutely. It happens. Yeah.
It happens a little too much, And in my center, we have 4 sections, A, B, C, and D. I'm in section B.
How many chairs is your unit?
There's 25 chairs. And Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, there's 4 sessions. Tuesday, Thursdays, and Saturdays is only 3 sessions.
Right. Wow.
But what we've noticed is that the sections A and C have great movement. You get in and people are coming out. They fill the chairs. I'm always hearing about section B is how understaffed they are. So each section has about 9 chairs. And always in my section B is always 1 technician and 1 nurse, where it should be 2 technicians and 1 nurse.
Wait a minute. Wow. Now I want to hear that again. So each section has 9 patients.
Yes.
And in your section, to take care of 9 people, there's 1 nurse and 1 technician. Because
they say they're always understaffed in my section. It's supposed to be 2 technicians.
Right, exactly. So you have in both people, one's putting on 5 patients and one is putting on 4.
And taking off.
Wow.
Because the first session is ending, and that's why they always have us going in late. Even though I'm there early, sometimes I'm there at 8:30 and I don't get put on to 10 o'clock, even though there's 2 or 3 empty chairs. Because they're short on a technician in that area. And what I tell them, by you putting me on early, I have to cancel my accessoride, my home transportation.
You have a pickup and pickup time.
A pickup at a certain time. So they've asked us to make our pickup times a lot later. And I've told them, no, I'm not going to sit here for a whole hour not feeling good in a waiting room that is not comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I want
Mm.
to get home. I want to get home and relax and make myself comfortable, not sit in an uncomfortable chair in a waiting room with everybody coughing and, seeing other patients that are not doing well. Because you can see, your fellow patients when they're decompensating. It's very evident. They look very ill, they look very fragile, and it's scary all the time because that could be you one day. You facing, you know, possibly your future. And I feel for some of the older people there. They just look like they're suffering so much. They're so weak.
Right.
And it's just
Yeah.
so frightening sometimes just to see how fragile they are. I just
Wow.
had one of my, one of the older ladies. I used to be on Tuesday, Thursdays, and Saturdays, and I
Mm-hmm.
was asking about her, and some of the patients had told me that she had passed away.
Mm.
Um, and I was kind of shocked that the family didn't contact me because we had each other's cell numbers, and I was hoping, that I can go pay my respects to her because I was close with this older Hispanic lady. We always joked around. She always talked about how she loved the shoes I would wear, and I would sit with her and her daughter, and we would laugh and talk about my trip to Puerto Rico or to the Dominican Republic, and they just enjoyed, some of my stories. So it was just heart crunching when I said, "Well, listen, how is Miss Moran doing?" And they said, "Oh no, she passed away." So I mean, um, that is the reality of going to the in centers that people who you befriend and talk to all the time may not be there tomorrow. I don't hear you anymore.
I'm here.
Oh, okay. I hear you
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Sorry about that. So we pretty much down to our time. I mean, time flies so well that we may have to change the time to a 90-minute show. Um, because I don't think we get a lot of good. I mean, we do get information out there, but a half an hour more information would be really, really great. But what would you suggest if someone's watching right now who just started dialysis or was right where you're at, maybe thinking about bypass? They were told the same information that you were told or suggested to. Maybe if you lose weight, that may help. What would you, knowing, you know, 2020 hindsight now, what would you say to that person who may be where you're at right now, back in 2000, where you was at 2001? What would you say to that person?
Well, before dialysis, if you diagnose with any kidney disease, I would always say to get a second opinion from another nephrologist. Speak to, another doctor to get a broad spectrum about your illness. The second thing is that learn about the illness, what you can do, especially diet, what you can eat and not eat, and cooking. I have a girlfriend that just loves to cook for me, but I cannot eat her food because she's so heavy handed with salt. And I tell her, I appreciate your food. So, one, if you're on the internet, look up things on the internet like I did when I was decompensating before getting on dialysis. I had these terrible headaches. My blood pressure was 250 over 150. Um, I had this metallic taste in my mouth. I had these hiccups that came from nowhere. When I went on the internet, I checked out, you know, dialysis. When are you going to need dialysis? And it came up five things: high blood pressure, very high, metallic taste, hiccups, severe headaches. I knew then. I called my one of my good friends. She came over, took me to the ER. I was admitted that day in the ER. They're thinking that I was going to have a stroke because of my high blood pressure being 250 over 150. And during that admittance, that's when they put in the catheter and I began dialysis. You have to be, you cannot trust anybody's word. You have to ask questions. If you're not satisfied with the answers, ask more questions. Have a family member speak up for you, a best friend, a close friend, somebody to always speak up for you to let them know that somebody is watching. That's what we have to do in the hospitals. When we in the hospital, have somebody there to let the medical staff that you're not alone, that someone is going to ask questions. As much as educated as I am, I didn't ask all the questions because I didn't know all the right questions to ask. And that's how you have to educate yourself, by asking and doing some research. If you're not computer savvy, ask one of your grandchildren, a neighbor that is computer savvy to look up things for you. So that way you could ask questions when you go to your doctor. We have to take responsibility. We can't put the trust in everybody else's hands.
I agree 100% with you, Sandy, on that. You cannot, trust someone else with your care in their hands because they may not have your best interest as you would.
Exactly.
Yeah. Hey, Sandy, is anybody out there you want to say hello to or just say hi?
Yes. Well, first of all, I want to send my prayers to Tamika, wishing her, the very best.
Thank you.
And there's 4 friends of mine that have been here with me. My girlfriend, Evie, who goes with me to my appointments to pick me up. There's 2 friends that I met in 1985 that I worked with, Sandra Eddy and Deborah Lucas. And then my friend Tanya, who took me to St. Barnabas Hospital to get on their transplant list. And I'm sure there's others that do supporting. And I want to thank all of them.
Sandy, let me just ask you, how many transplant lists are you on?
I'm on 1 at Weill Cornell and pending 2, John Hopkins and St. Barnabas in New Jersey.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
I'm waiting to finish my test on October 30th, my cardio, the echo, the stress, to complete those on October 30th. And then my coordinator will send everybody the results of all the transplant tests that I've had to see if I can get on their list.
Just one quick question. So that would be 3.
Yes.
So have you noticed different criterias with all 3 hospitals?
Tremendously different. John Hopkins is the most difficult to get on. And that's because their wait list is only 3 years.
Okay.
But they require a lot. They had me do a liver biopsy that was not, it was very difficult to do because after the biopsy, you're in a lot of pain and a lot of soreness. They have one test called oxalating, and it's for those that had bariatric surgery. They took me off their list because they said my blood pressure in my stomach was too strong for the transplant. Mm-hmm. So I redid the test, and I'm waiting for them to make a determination after October 30th.
Wow. Well, I'm definitely going to keep you in thoughts and prayers.
Thank you.
Do you recommend other people who are on the transplant list to register with multiple centers?
Close to home. Mm-hmm. A state that's close to home, because you have to realize once you have a transplant, the first month you have to be at that hospital 3 times a month. And and transportation, you cannot use public transportation for the first 6 months after your transplant. It's forbidden to use any type. Yeah.
Even if you have a mask on?
Even if you have a mask on. They tell you that you have to, agree that you will not take mass transit, that you will not be out in the public for the first 3 to 6 months. Somebody has to do all your grocery shopping for you and has to accommodate you to each trip, outside of public transportation, which means a private car.
Wow.
So
I didn't,
in order for me to do John Hopkins or New Jersey, I would have to rent a car to have one of my friends that do not have a car to be driving me 3 times a week to these appointments. That's required for the first 3 months.
right. Let me just say something. Misha, I see you responded. Thanks a lot. But I wanted to know, by you being in Virginia, that you have to abide by these same type of restrictions of not traveling for a period of time, or if anybody else had to, please share on here, because that's the first time I heard that. And I've seen people who had transplants come back to the unit less than 3 months visiting.
Mm.
So, I mean, it could be different criteria at different centers, but I mean, in New York, I could probably understand, wow, that's what's that, a city of 8 million people?
Yeah, so
And
far.
with the,
But that's for John Hopkins and St. Barnabas. When I went for my, pre-evaluation, that was part of their criteria that you had to
wow,
be driven. You cannot take mass transit. Um, and you have to wear a mask, of course, and that you have to have someone agree to do your shopping for the first 3 months because they do not want you out with the general public.
right. Misha responded, and she said with her second transplant, she could go out sooner.
Oh,
She said her first one, with the first, it was more restrictive.
okay.
So so maybe some places they get lenient, but just even I just had guy from Vancouver, Washington, Adrian Miller. He just recently had a transplant, and I think I mean, it's been less than 3 months, and I don't know. Maybe he didn't share that, but really, that's the first. I mean, I knew in the past patients were, if they leave out, they would have the mask on, but I didn't know it gotten this more restrictive with the advancements of technology and medication. So, wow, that's interesting to hear, Sandy.
Yeah, I mean, and it just makes it difficult because a lot of my friends are in my age category. Not everybody's is so uh, um, well that they could, maneuver and go with
Right,
me through all these appointments. But, that is, the three hospitals had me promise that that was some of the rules that I would follow. So I have a little kitty that I put aside in case I have to rent a car.
yeah, I hear you. I hear you. And Misha said she drove herself to her appointment.
Well, I know Wild Cornell said that was a no-no because I just mentioned that. They says no. Um, I asked them, could I take a ride? And they was like, only if it's only one person in the vehicle at that time besides your companion.
Right, right. Wow. Very interesting. I want to research some more on that because wow. Hmm. All right, Sandy. Well, we didn't went 18 minutes over, but it was a great 18 minutes. Very educational time I spent with you. Very informative. Thank you very much for being on the show and taking the time out of your Sunday morning to spend with us. Uh, just one thing else I'd like to say. I really, really, really think you should go for the home dialysis. That's just
I'm going to
my
consider it.
opinion. Thank you, Misha. That's just my opinion because I think you would do great at it, and even more could probably be a staunch advocate to get more people to do home dialysis. So maybe that could be something that will alleviate some of the staffing shortage and other problems that occur in the units. If more people would go home and do it, then it wouldn't be um, such overcrowding and understaffing with the staff.
Well, you're most welcome, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my story and hopefully help those others out there um, to advocate for themselves, for their family, for their friends, and to understand, that um, we work hard at trying to live. It's not just something taken for granted. And our friends and family have to understand that just because you might look good one day, you're working hard at living. And thanks to
Absolutely.
all those out there that are giving great service to us, the technicians and nurses and doctors that really go the extra, because it's not easy going the extra at times. And I
Right.
appreciate those out there. And I appreciate you, Steve. And it was a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you. I really
Hopefully one day
appreciate
we
it.
see each other in person.
Oh, no, absolutely. I want to make it my point. I mean, this is what God said to me to like the people that I talk to on here to try to make it around the country to meet these people to spread awareness. Because there's nothing mainstream other than these big organizations that talk about it, but it's not talked about like it should be. And God just touched my heart to try to make some type of journey across the United States talking about this, meeting people as yourself, and spreading awareness to people know about this disease. And it's not just talked about on social media. It's talked about mainstream and social media and awareness. And, we're not talking, about it as if it's, a shame to talk about, but something that we could deal with head on in spite of the situation that it brings. And I think if we're like you said, if you're educated about it, you can get in front of it and hopefully do something to take your life back, take control from this disease. Because a lot of people, like you said, they go in, they just sit, go to treatment, they don't pretty much care what goes on with their care until something happens that sends them to the emergency room or sends them to an extra doctor's appointment or something else. It's more like you go in, get your treatment, you leave out. And during that time while you're there, a lot of people are not really paying attention to what's going on to their treatment. They're leaving it up to people who may not have the best for their care. So this is very important.
Exactly. And these shows that you do are very important to share information because I've learned a lot from the shows from the other patients, the other warriors out there sharing their stories, their experiences. And when I go in tomorrow, I will talk about those because I invited people to watch today at the center. I
Oh,
didn't
okay.
I
I'm hoping
didn't
to watch
invite
it.
I didn't invite the technicians or the nurses
Hey,
because I knew I wouldn't.
no,
Um,
but and anybody who's watching, if they know any technician nurses, I invited because I want to speak. I don't want to vilify or anything like that, but I want people from the healthcare field, other than myself and Tamika, to speak on this. These people, I mean, the people working the units, they talk amongst themselves about these big companies and, and complain about the work environment and just certain stuff. I mean, I know you have to eat and watch out for your job, but right is right, and wrong is wrong. And, if I wasn't a nurse, I mean, I would still be doing the same thing if that's what God touched on my heart, because anybody can get kidney disease. It doesn't have no name on it. And I met a lot of people who I worked with in the past that are now kidney patients, and they do see the difference. And the hardest thing that they deal with, that they told me with this disease, is the mental aspect of dealing. It's not the physical or anything else, but the mental aspect of dealing with this disease.
Yeah, because I mean, even though I'm retired, I don't consider myself retired anymore because I have to get up at 6:30 in the morning, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. It's like a job. You know, I
Right.
go in, I punch in, I sit there, get on the machine for 3.5 hours, wait to be taken off, bandages up, and then wait for my ride home. So my day is from 8 o'clock when I leave, and I get home 2:30. That's a work day practically for some.
Right, right. It is. And it could be longer for some people, got to depend on the transportation. You go
Or
out for
those
3 hours,
4 hours.
and it could take up to 6 or 7 hours to get back home, depending on if they drop somebody off home before they drop you off. I've
Exactly,
seen
yes.
it. I've seen it.
I've
So,
seen it.
all right, Sandy. Well,
Thank
uh,
you.
all good things must come to an end. But again, I appreciate you being on. I will definitely be in contact with you through this. And so until next time, God bless you. You'll be in my thoughts and prayers. And please think about the home dialysis.
I will. Ciao,
All right.
warriors.
All right.
Peace
Thanks
and
a
love
lot,
to
Sandy.
everybody.
All
Ciao.
right. Ciao. Again, like to thank everyone for watching Sunday Morning Transplant Coffee Talk. Again, please keep my partner Tamika Moore in your prayers as she is still on bed rest. I'd like to thank everyone who watched today. Misha Adams out in Virginia, who's a kidney advocate warrior out there, and Willard, Southern Maryland. We had Braille from Adams out in Virginia. We had Brill from Ohio. Thank you for tuning in. Hopefully, Kim White from Canada. We just want people to be aware of what's going on. So please share this with your respective groups. And until next time, until Thursday night with Urban Reno Talk with Tamika and Steve, have a good week. God bless. You're on my thoughts and prayers. And we'll see you then. Take care.